bound.
Hey guys, Eric Tarr here for theproaudiofiles.com. In this video I'll be discussing how to use dithering as the very last stage of mastering. So far I've been using the Ozone 5 plugin to master my song. Here's what I've got so far.
Trouble bound. We hit the town. I'll never forget that sound.
Dithering is one of the most complicated concepts in mastering. This is because the result of dithering is to actually add noise to your signal to make it sound better. This might be a little counterintuitive because normally noise is a bad thing with audio. But the thing to understand is that the addition of noise is inevitable whenever you're printing a track, whether you use dithering or not. With dithering, you at least have control over the noise to make it almost impossible to hear. Without dithering, you run the risk that this noise could be audible to your listeners. So why does noise come in whenever you're printing a track? This is because the signal that you're printing is going from a higher bit depth to a lower bit depth. Whenever this happens, the resolution or detail of the signal is reduced. In other words, your computer has to round off or approximate the amplitude of this signal to fit the lower bit depth. Now, the resolution of a CD wave file is 16-bit, which is plenty of resolution for playback purposes of audio. So this is usually the bit depth that you want to print to whenever you're bouncing a song from your DAW. Although 16-bit is sufficient for playback purposes, there are advantages to recording at a higher bit depth, such as 24-bit, for processing purposes. Nonetheless, whether you record at 16 or 24-bit, you still need to use dithering. And here's why. Your digital audio workstation is going to process the audio signals internally at 32-bit floating point, regardless of whether you record signals in your DAW at 16 or 24-bit. Essentially, your DAW is automatically giving you a higher resolution for internal processing, and this is a good thing. So there's always going to be the need to have this final conversion necessary to go from 32-bit down to 16-bit, and then the round off of the resolution. This approximation is like adding noise to your signal because sometimes the amplitude gets rounded up and sometimes it gets rounded down by a small amount. Without dithering, these rounding errors are correlated with your audio signal, or in other words, they're related and dependent on your audio signal. Assuming your signal contains a lot of energy within a frequency range that's easy to hear, the rounding errors could also be within a frequency range that's easy to hear. However, when you use dithering, you are intentionally adding noise that's going to be difficult for a listener to hear. This is because dither noise can be shaped to be in a frequency range that is difficult for humans to perceive. So let's take a look at the dithering capabilities of Ozone. Right now I'm working inside of the Maximizer module of Ozone 5. Here you'll find the dithering capabilities of the plugin. Right now I have dithering turned off. Therefore, if I were to print the audio from my session, I'd actually be adding in noise that's correlated with the signal of my song. This is exactly what I want to avoid and why I'm going to be using dithering. So I'll go ahead and turn dithering on. Right off the bat, I'm going to be adding in noise now that's uncorrelated with my song and more difficult to hear. Right now I'm using the M-bit algorithm, but there are several other algorithms to use as well. Alright, inside of each algorithm, you actually have several parameters for shaping that noise to make it even less audible. In order to demonstrate these, I'm going to switch over to the dither plot here so you can see the frequency spectrum of the noise that I'm adding in. Right now I have the noise shaping turned off, so this is noise that has a flat frequency response. You can go ahead and turn on the noise shaping here, see what happens. I'm scooping out some of the energy of the noise that's in the frequency range that's most audible for human hearing. There's going to be more energy of the noise in the low frequencies and the really high frequencies. As I turn on noise shaping even higher, you can see that more and more high frequency noise gets added in. This is going to be very difficult for humans to hear. Alright, so I can go all the way up to ultra. Okay, you can also change the bit depth that you're working with. Now if you're going to be printing to 16-bit audio, you just want to leave it on that. But if you're using DVD audio, then you might want to use 24. You can also hear, if I turn on 8-bit audio, that all of a sudden the noise becomes more audible. But I'm going to switch it back to 16-bit here. And you can change the dither amount, whether you want it to be extra dither or none, low. I'm going to just leave it on normal for now. All right, show you some of these other algorithms. Again, you can have noise shaping each algorithm has its own type of noise shaping. It's pretty much up to you to decide what you want to use. For the most part, they're all going to be better than working without dither, but the more and more noise shaping that you use, it's going to put the energy in these high frequencies. It's going to be difficult to hear. In this case, you can change the number of bits, the amplitude of the noise that you're adding in from 1 bit to 2 bit, and so on. Switch back here. You can see as you get into more of these complicated algorithms of noise shaping, primarily focusing the energy in the high frequencies. Switch over to noise 2. Alright, so the last thing I'll demonstrate then is this DC filter. I usually almost always click this on. What this is going to do is make sure that there's no offset going to my speakers, so that my speakers are at a steady state point of no energy rather than just having them either pushed forward and then oscillating or pushed back. And that's the DC offset that you want to filter out. And that's all there really is to the dithering module of Ozone 5. That concludes the series I have on mastering with Ozone 5. I hope that you have a good idea now about how to use this very powerful tool for mastering your own tracks. Take care, guys.
Trouble bound.